2D over here. If you just say, well, I want to drag my model, and you go ahead and drag it from off screen. You'll see it load in this side. So let me go ahead and import this. What was this? The CSVP? I think I needed to do the PSD. Okay, PSD, sorry. You also generally want to do PSD formats. I'm using Clip Studio Paint Pro, which can export into PSD, so it's not an issue. I did a lot of research and trying to figure out which would be better between Photoshop and PSD. And just in general, it seems like CSPP is both cheaper and kind of easier to use. So as you can see down here, there's a bunch of different deformers. You can kind of see over here my layers show up. There's one for the main fire and then a bunch of different pieces here. But I haven't actually done any cutting. So if I want to try like deforming Aki, for example, if I like select this and then just do like auto meshing, for example, like there's very little that I can actually mesh on. So I would need to like select this entire art mesh. So it can do this and then just create like a very simple and just like 5x5 with 9x10. So if I do it like this, this is kind of how Live2D actually works. What it does is you make a bunch of art meshes, and then for each object, these meshes are then used to deform the object. So for example, if I click here, you can see how it's kind of like moving this mesh around. But since everything here is one flat image, if I just set everything to match like this one thing, you can see how like nothing is really happening. That's because it's trying to just deform the entire image. And I put the mesh on top of the actual character. So if you don't cut things into pieces, you'll only be able to like move specific pieces. So like, let's say I do the same thing here. And I do destination is like final. And I make one a big one here. Still same issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo all of this. So now we'll head back to the actual Live2D. So here, you're gonna want to make sure that you cut every individual piece that moves. And in general, you're going to want to be as detailed on your layers and in your cutting as possible so that everything will move properly. So you see here, I've gotten folders for my ears, my face, my eyes, my hair, my neck, arms, rest, legs. And then each of these has subdivisions for like, I'm gonna be cutting the right ear, and then that'll have a couple of different layers. So right now, everything is kind of on one giant layer. Technically, there are 3 different layers. There's one layer for my foxfires, you can see I can turn them on and off. There's one for my actual main character here. You can see her going away when I turn that off. And then there's one per tails. So for now, I'm just going to start with the main character. So let's go ahead and turn the tails off. So let's start with her face. Switch over to my tablet. So first thing you're going to want to do is pick each specific region, and you want to make sure that you basically be as precise as possible, like cutting things out. My zoom isn't quite right here, so I'm gonna zoom up just a little bit more. Here. I also pre-selected my things so that I have the options that I like a little bit color-coded so that I know what to look for. You can, generally when you select things in Clip Studio Pro, you get kind of stuck in the selection mode, so there's a button to make sure that I know how to deselect things. There's cut and paste, which will remove things from the current layer and put them into a different layer, and then there's copy and paste, which is the same but without removing it from the current layer. But since I'm in this layer right now, what I'm going to want to do is I'm working on her right ear, which looks to your left since you're looking straight at her, but it's her right. Just do like a really generic big capture over here, and then right here I'm gonna kind of want to be very careful with just barely going along this line to get most of the hair. That's good. So you see most of this is transparent, but it's when I go back into the actual model that I need to be very careful. So with that, I'm gonna wanna copy and paste. So now if we look over here, wait, did I do the wrong thing? I know what I did. Okay. So now as you see, on the left here, we now have this layer. That's a different copy. So I'm gonna go over here and immediately just rename this into left ear and then move it down. Wait, this is right here, sorry. And then move it down into the folder for it. Now if we go back to the main character, and we turn off that right ear layer, you can see that her ear is gone now. So eventually what we're going to want to do is have everything in the same place. If I don't want to like delete it like this though, I can also just like keep the original as is and then instead do copy paste. So now same thing, we have an extra copy of her ear, where I can turn her entire body off now, but I still have that ear by itself. But I want it in a way where we just basically keep everything in its own layer. So I can go ahead and delete that copy layer. Again, renaming this to her right ear. Another thing that I learned of interest is that, like, just because we've gotten this ear now, you can go ahead and hide everything else. There we go. So we can move this down here into right. So now that we have this one part, I want the inner like ear floof to be able to move separately. So I'm gonna go ahead and deselect this, and now we're gonna go around and actually grab this inner ear floof as well. Exactly. First step to having wiggly ears. And if you do something like I did there, where like you go a little bit too far, you can also switch into remove from selection mode and then just like circle, like for example, I didn't want the bottom part. See, now it's gone. The next thing you're going to want to do is, if you're not exactly precise like I wasn't, and you have like that little bit of, you can see how like it wasn't exactly in the line at the tip there. After you cut this out, this is right here. Like you could see how there's that weird like little orange bubble around the edge there, right? Let's deselect. Go ahead and move over. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you let's decrease the brushes. That you like go around and just like make sure that you clean the edges up, so that you don't have like that weird pattern. I'm gonna use like a bigger brush to kind of get like most of it first. And then you can see like the lines are a little bit messed up, so you might want to like go grab this, switch back to the even smaller than that. Yeah, this is the kind of pen I'll use. As you can imagine, it's a bit of a time-consuming process to like get everything like right. I'm gonna strengthen this part a little bit too. Okay. And similarly, I'm going to strengthen it just down here a little bit too. And then put this down a little bit. And similarly, just kind of grab this little bit of shading type. Put a little bit more definition. Got that. There we go. Okay, so now that we've got that, go ahead and save. Now if we go out can kind of see, like, if we remove the right ear floof, you can see, like, we left this kind of hole behind, right? Where we took out the original base. So you're gonna want to make sure that you cover that up. And this can just be, and I'm currently at this. Okay. So now I'm just gonna. Oh wait, no, that's weird. Kind of filling in that void. Probably go ahead and make the brush bigger. What'd you say?
Wouldn't it be easier if you just drew a single line at the base of the ear to seal off, and then just drop a paint bucket in that empty area?
Yeah, but I want to have like different shading on it in the middle. You see how like kind of like as it gets closer to the edges, like the shading over here changes? Yeah. So I kind of want to replicate that a bit. I need much smaller brushes to do that. That's too small. Shading and go back to making bigger brush strokes. And this sort of like filling technique becomes important once you do like stuff with the face too, because you'll have to cut the face out. And if you don't do stuff like this when your character looks up, for example, like if you haven't colored in there and like given this kind of like meshing, you'll see like this, you'll be able to see like the blank space underneath like where their hair is. Depending on your model, it might not be that much of an issue, like especially if they have a lot of hair like Aki does, it won't necessarily be as big of a problem. You also don't have to go like as crazy as I'm going, because a lot of this is going to be hidden, so like I don't necessarily have to do all of it. but it's just something I want to do as like, since I care a lot. And since I'm also going to be doing my own rigging, it'll kind of help me. I'm a total newbie when it comes to all of this, so it's been like studying for a little bit to kind of learn all of this sort of stuff. And hopefully it helps you too. Okay, and now like even if my ear fluff wiggles a little bit, all of the like spaces that it could expose should probably be covered. I'll have to like go test it, but there. Now if we go ahead and put the ear back on top, you can kind of see like my floof layer is on top. You'll want to like touch up the areas like here. I messed up a little bit and overdrew. Okay. And then I'm gonna clean up the like black lines here a little bit. So like you can kind of see like there's a little more flex that I'm like working on, like these little tiny spots down here. Or I'm like trying to fix. If you zoom in a little bit more, you'll be able to see what I'm looking at. Let's go down here. You can see like right here, this is what I was looking at. Or like, I don't want this like gray area here. And some of this is actually carryover from the floof layer, so I'm actually like working on that layer now. And then back to this layer to patch the insides of the ear part. little bit left that still like allows for conflict, like the contrast to show. So now this ear will be able to move independently of the rest of Aki, and her ear floof will be also able to move independently, which is kind of cool. So now if we go back to the base, if you zoom out, looks like basically nothing's changed, but it'll make a big difference to when we import it into Live2D. So I'll do the other ear later now that you've seen that. So I'll move on to the hair for now. So an important thing about each hair piece is that you're gonna want to cut your hair in such a way that every strand that you want to move should be in its own layer. So, for example, I'll kind of draw with like a bright yellow just so you can kind of see where I'm pointing at. So like Aki's hair has technically, I think it's like this front piece here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. There's, I mean, make my brush size a little bit more obvious so you can see. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong layer. Let me double check behind her so I can see everything. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't accidentally draw any more on that layer. So she has like one piece to the, like, I'm just gonna draw lines so that you can see like the divisions in her hair pieces. So like this is 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So let's say like, what if you're like, well, what if I don't want to cut it that deep? And then like, let's say 3 through 5, you might think that that's a single piece. That's fine. It just means that that whole section will move as one. Like each section of that won't be able to move by itself. You could theoretically cut the entire hairpiece as one giant layer. But if you do, like, it'll look more like a helmet rather than hair because it won't flow when you move. And like, I think it would be nice to have each of those little components in the middle that I drew. Like if she's like, if I'm like turning his side to side, I would like her to move and like each of those pieces to move slightly differently. So that's why I would want to cut it that way. So similarly, again like before, I'm gonna wanna, and then the actual back part of her hair is an entirely other piece. So as you can see, there's actually quite a lot of work that goes into cutting the hair. So, like similarly, since now we're in the middle of 2 different pieces, you want to be very careful with like grabbing it. And again, like you can be less careful, but the more careful you are in selecting it to begin with, the less like post-cleaning you'll have to do. And you can do something like this, and again, you can go to like remove from selection and like draw around pieces that you don't want. So see like that. Then I can just draw back up this line. And then I can just draw circles around like bigger pieces I don't want. I don't want that part, I don't want that part, I don't want that part. And like I kind of want to redo this part. I want to redo this part. And then you can similarly, instead of having to redraw, you can do add to selection and kind of redraw your lines a little bit better. And then you can just circle pieces in the middle to add them full sail to the selection once you've gotten the lines you wanted. To see that looks mostly right, with the exception of the bottom piece here. I need this to actually trace out to her hair. And then I want to take out this inner part that's basically just her skin. But in this case, it might be easier to just add it. Like, you can see, like, instead of getting like super precise in here, it might be easier to like take just this block and then clean it up afterward. So I'm gonna go ahead. And again, like, since you're gonna be making so many layers, if you really want to get detailed, you'll want to make sure that you label all of your layers as soon as you make them. So see, I just middle layer. So this is like similarly, I'm going to move it into the right folder for it. So again, I'm going to turn off everything else. I'm going to turn off the ears. And you can see, like, I got this just by itself. Go ahead and deselect. Zoom in a bit. And then similarly, same thing, you want to make sure that you erase around the edges there. The pieces that you grabbed that you don't actually want. And again, like, the level of detail that you want to do with like making sure that you clean this up really depends on you and how clean you want your model to look. So I care a lot about my model, so I'm not trying to be as clean as I can be, while it's still like not taking hours to do every little piece. Because I can do that part off stream, all the like super detailed cleaning, but I do want to show a reasonable amount of cleaning so that you don't get like false impressions. A little bit too much there. As you can kind of see, like, I got like the edge of her face there and her eyelash. By the way, I meant to mention this earlier, but Yabby is the artist who did the work on Aki, so please support the artist. Yabby's work is great. Thank you, Todd. And just when remaking pieces, you want to be kind of careful to make sure that you use like the right color to make it blend properly. I think I need to recreate the edge here. And I didn't do anything here, but I just want to like make sure I clean up that dividing line right here. It's a little bit too strong. I'm just kind of cleaning up the lines to make them look a little bit neater. These like lines right at the junction aren't necessarily, like, you might think they might not necessarily be that important, but the important thing is that when like you turn your head side to side, you'll see like the deformation will like make your hair move away from your skin. And if you have like skin particles attached to your hair, that'll like look really weird. If you like, look to the side and your hair swings out and there's like skin stuck to your hair, that would look really weird. So like, I'm gonna save this one as a duplicate. Now the problem is like, if we go back to look at everything, you can kind of see the line there where like it cut. You can kind of see like how there's like transparency around her hair now. Like around like where I removed the pieces of the skin. So like I would have to go patch this up. And that's normal. So another thing you do is just like disable this hair strand so you can actually see like where the issues are, and that way you want to paint underneath where like you left the hole, so that way like when you turn your face, you don't just see like a white void where the hair was previously covering it. You'll see the actual face completely. So a little bit of a difficult thing for Aki is that, as you can see, her eyelash actually goes into the hair. So like, what I really should have done is cut around that eyelash and then paint it underneath it. Because now like, the way I've left it, if I leave that as is without painting over it, it will it'll actually result in her like eyelash detaching if I look. Like if I like swing my head side to side, like this piece of her eyelash over here will like detach with the rest of her hair unless I fix that. So for this first day, since I'm like trying to show you some of like the steps I want to do, I'm gonna basically go back to before I cut that. An important experience. Or like pretty much, I undid all of the cutting work I just did. So now I'm just gonna draw around this eyelash here. And now when I cut and select, I'm also gonna go in here. And this is what I was saying earlier about, it's better if you are very careful when you cut, so that you don't have as much patching up to do. So see like here, like I ripped kind of her skin off of her face a little bit. So I'm just gonna retrace that a little bit. I know those pieces that I had cut the first time aren't gonna be there anymore. And it's a matter of preference in terms of style, whether or not you want to be like super, super precise the first time. And then like just do manual cleanup after, or be more precise the first time and then have less cleanup to do. Personally, I like being a bit more precise the first time, but that's a personal decision. So let's zoom out a little bit. Move this up, center this, zoom back in. And then again, I don't want to like rip all of the skin in the middle out, so I'm using the exclude from selection and then just circling all of this. So as you can see now, my like cuts are getting more precise, and then I cut too deeply here, so I'm just gonna add this part. My cut was very imprecise here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add this entire region. So yeah, it's kind of interesting once you get the hang of it, but it's also a lot of work. Okay. So now you can see, like, now that I've zoomed in, you can see a little bit better about like how you really do want to be zoomed in for this kind of work, because if you're zoomed out, you're going to have a lot of post work to do with fixing your cuts and stuff. Let's move this over a little bit. Yeah, you can see I was like way off on some pieces because I did it zoomed out. So similarly, just gonna do this, exclude rather. And this part's an include. So as you can see, you can like inside, you can be like very fast with just quickly adding components, and then you kind of want to just draw lines against what you don't want very carefully, and then loop back and just close that lasso. Yeah. So you can see the lines are getting better now. And at this point, like, I could keep improving it and like and then getting like exponentially closer and closer to having like a perfect outline. But at this point, I would rather just do the cleanup later, like after I finish cutting this. So again, all right, hair piece. Hair piece. And now we'll move that into the hair folder. Now if we turn off the rest of it, we kind of see like we still have the same issue, but now if we go further up, I don't have her eyelash anymore. And then if we go back to seeing everything else, you can see like we kept the eyelash in the base image. So now it's not part of her hair anymore. So this is the desired outcome for me. And then later on, of course, I'm gonna go in clean up the hair and really like clean up the edges and stuff like that. And again, since we cut the hair out, her base face is now missing components, and we just have to draw those back in, fix them up so that when we move our hair and move our head, we won't just see like empty voids where the hair was. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do some of that now. Let's do a deselect here. And just make sure that you're on the right layer when you do this sort of thing. You still want to like keep the, like if you overlap them, you can see like it's gonna be like overlapped a bit, and that's fine, I think. Because the hair will be layered on top. So like eventually like her face will be in another layer that's underneath this. So right now it looks weird. But eventually like her face is gonna have an entirely separate layer to itself. So you will be doing weird things to your models in the interim. It's totally okay. You will eventually fix it. I'm just pinning her blush stripes back into the gaps that were left by her hair. Additionally, this brings me to another very important point. If you want your character to have a default blush, like I do for Aki, you actually have to put that blush also in a layer of its own. So like, even though I'm patching this up now, like I'm not done with this. I will have to come back later and cut out like each of these blush stripes and put them in like all of the blush stripes and then put them in their own layer and then remove all of the skin in between. Because again, you want like the blush to move with your character's face. Like as they're turning, you want like kind of the blush to move with their cheeks. And you don't want it to like slide horizontally. You want it to like actually turn with them. So if you leave it on like a flat texture, it'll just like slide horizontally in space and that won't really look that good. So you need to give it its own layer so that it has the flexibility to kind of like turn inwards and match the rest of your character's movement. So that's something to consider if you are concerned about having your character have their own, like have a default blush like Aki does. I don't know about you, but I find it really satisfying, like as the like last little gaps are filled in and it starts looking normal again. Let's just zoom in a little bit more. since I was zoomed out a bit earlier, the like, plus stripes look a little uneven, so I'm just like kind of touching those up. I find this is actually pretty relaxing.
Especially whenever you have the music in the background.
Mm-hmm. So now if we zoom out a bit more, you can see like we've mostly patched the hole in her face. So we've got like kind of like, go ahead and grab this black here. Let's move this just a little bit more to recenter it and then zoom it in. So you kind of want to make sure that you I'm like using the judge if that kind of want to make that a little bit more straight. Back on, you can see like and you can see like up here how this is starting to be behind her hair. So you actually don't want to use the base skin shade, you want to use like a slightly darker shade here so that it's like shadowed by her hair. And like you'll want to blend it and stuff to make it look a little bit more natural later. But sometimes like, especially if it's only stuff that you'll see like in motion, it being like a bit distinct like this is okay. So you will have to like retouch your drawings unless you draw in such a style that like to begin with your character is already basically like, arranged like this. Sorry. So even this looks kind of weird now, but like with the hair on top of this. Like we zoom out a bit. You can see like I overshaded it a little bit. So a lot of this should be still the base color. But like all the pieces that are directly overlapped by the hair should still be like that darker kind. So like down here should be like this darker color. And then I'll draw the bust stripes on top of that again. And kind of just like giving it a bit of an enclosure. And I'll go ahead and just fill that. And then I can touch up parts of it. Smaller brush. Maybe not that small. And then up here, go ahead and change this back. I just want to leave like the very edge, kind of. And then we can blend that a little bit. I just learned how to use this tool today, so I'm having fun. It's like it looks kind of weird for now, but again, that's because the hairpiece is on top. Like it'll eventually be on top, so it'll look like this. Or like again, I need to clean up the hair pieces and stuff, but like you can see how now you can't see that skin underneath until she moves. At which point it'll look like it's kind of like shadowed underneath it. I'm gonna like mess this up a little bit. So I won't really necessarily know for sure until I like actually get to try it later, like and see like what it looks like with the actual movement. So I'll likely have to come back into this like after I start rigging it up a bit, get a better feel for like what it's supposed to look like, and then fix it. So it's not a like a one and done process. You'll be going back and forth. And this is another reason why a lot of people don't do their own rigging and they just hire someone to do it for them. Because even the cut-in is quite a lot of work, as you can see. Right, I need to turn this off now because I made a bunch of edits to something I shouldn't have. And I guess one of the ways you can tell I'm still kind of a newbie at this is like I keep forgetting to switch my current working layer so I don't make silly edits to things that shouldn't be edited. hey, we all start somewhere, right? I'm just kind of giving her a face, the like base outline. Okay. So yeah, that'll continue looking weird for a little bit because of the like actual layering, but there. See, now it looks normal. Even though I've gone in and like cut it up a bunch. So that's the cool part. Like once it's all done, it'll look normal. It's just that you have to kind of get used to seeing everything look really weird when you're in the middle of working. It's a pretty interesting experience that I'm not really used to. So that said, now let's start a little bit on the eyes. Again, my goal for today is just kind of like talking about each different area and kind of giving you a feel for like what you would need to do in each area. And then like my next few streams are just going to be actually like doing all of the things in detail. So for the eyes, each eye needs to be in its own layer. Preferably your eyelashes will also be in their own layer. And then you want to have a separate like layer for each individual element of your eye as well. If you really want it to look 3D and look really nice when you turn, especially if you like zoom in, or you are gonna really focus on the face of your model, and you want your facial expressions to really look really nice. Like if you're turning your head to the side, you want your eyes to look like they're really 3D. You have to make a layer for each of your eyes' highlights. That is an interesting tech. So like, for example, Aki is like probably gonna have just her, like the actual like eye makeup here, like this eyebrow, like this eyeshadow here, is gonna be its own layer, and then her actual eye will be its own layer. And then the eye white will be its own layer, the inner pupil will be its own layer. Each of these like highlights in the middle, these multicolor highlights, will each be their own layer. So, like, again, if you leave them all as one base layer, they'll just kind of translate horizontally with your eye, and they won't look like they're, like, reflecting the light as your eye is shifting positions. So, like I said, it's a very detailed process. So for this, I'm just gonna... First, I'm just gonna grab her entire, like... basically. And then, like I said, what I like to do is make bigger circles that like kind of encompass too much, and then draw smaller circles that I can then like just loop back that help me really cut down what I've actually selected. And then if needed, I can re-extend them. Just for me, it's like harder to trace the shape than it is to like trace most of the shape and then trace outside of the shape. Plus, like for example, like you can see how I only have to be really precise when I'm making that last inner movement. Slide this down a little bit, recenter it, and then zoom it in. I have a shortcut on my tablet that lets me zoom in, so I suggest that. It's very handy. And I'm just doing this in like pieces, so I don't like end up doing too much in one piece and then having like directions I don't really like. like again, unless you get like super precise with your original selection, you're gonna have these edges. Like you can see how even like me being somewhat precise, you're gonna have these edges that you're gonna have to deal with afterward. And like that's okay. It's just you do need to remember to deal with them. They are important if you want the maximum quality for your model. Let's go ahead and move over a little bit. Let's see, can we just grab this part? Oh, we want all of this up here. So theoretically, I'm not even sure if I need like all of this or if that should be its own layer or not. But her actual eyebrows a lot higher. Okay, that's good enough for now. So again, I'm gonna wanna cut and paste. This is gonna be her. Wait, did I mess up? It should be over here. Okay. I did mess up briefly. So like I said, I need to make sure that I put this back in its right folder. Like I said, be very careful with your orders. This is now her right eye total. So now I have my eyes folder. And then grab this, move it down into eyes. Oh dear, what just happened? Move it down to eyes. What? Eyes. You can see like I have it subdivided into right and left eye. Just want to make sure that stop doing that. I make sure to put this in the right folder. So again, now we can hide everything else, and we just have this eye by itself. And I just need to hide her hair. There. So now is the question of how we want to deal with each of these individual components. So for now, I'm just gonna cut. I'm gonna leave the skin around because I need to look up like a little bit more about how to deal with that. But I'm gonna do a new selection here in the right eye, and I'm gonna go ahead and wait, don't do that. Deselect. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of try to grab her inner eye. Again, I'm starting to get a little bit lazy with like how careful I am with grabbing the initial outline. Because for me, it's easier to like be a little bit lazy and then like trace very carefully, very specific sections at a time, and then just circle the parts I don't want. Like, you can see how it's getting like more precise as I do this. So this is like one of the bigger things I can say is just never give up with how detailed it got. And like, don't get impatient. It will all be worth it in the end when your character comes to life. Add a little bit there on the bottom. Take a little bit away there. And in case you're wondering, I'm using a Wacom Intuos Pro M for my drawing tablet. Okay, so I think that's good for the main body of the eye. Then the next step is this. This will be the iris. So now with an iris, I'm going to want to start working on the, oops, click the wrong button. I'm going to start working on hiding the rest of the eye. We can, oh, do still need this folder to be visible. I'm going to hide the rest of the eye and then only look at the iris. So as you can see, like there's a little bit where I had to like cut off there that didn't exist in the original art. So this is fine. Again, just as usual, you'll have to do a bit of redrawing for your model most of the time. So. And I suck at drawing, so, and I can manage it sometimes. So it's not too bad. Especially because the parts that are hidden are like the parts that didn't exist will likely be hidden when your model's in like their default position or pose. So you don't have to like worry about getting everything super duper absolutely perfect. Do quite that much. Scrap time, actually. This is also why it's nice to have like a professional artist to do your base. It's a lot easier to work with when like a lot of the work is already there. But if you do it yourself, you can also then use that as an advantage to like draw in a style that makes it easier to cut. Like you can draw in a bunch of layers to start with. And then you don't have to do cutting once you're done because you'll have already separated everything in the process of drawing. it really depends on your own style, and you might request it from your artist if you want. I didn't, so I have to cut afterward. That's fine, because I wanted to kind of learn how to do that anyway, and that way I could share it with all of you. So it's a little lopsided, so I want to like make it look a little bit better than that.
That's not my business.
Oh, is that? This is part of the track. You can see now it's looking a little bit more rounded. Grab this, make this a little bit brighter in here. And then I want like the very tip up here should be like super dark. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit and see if this looks like okay from a distance. Yeah, this part will be hidden by her eyes, so that's okay. So, that done. Let's go ahead and save that. I'm gonna want to start cutting out the highlights. So similarly to before. This music reminds me of like Professor Layton. I'm trying only to get basically the white parts. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit more here. And you can see how like I'm just basically just drawing small circles around the parts I don't want. That's easier. And in some cases it's like the boxes. I think this is fun. So here I'll cut and paste this. This becomes not iris copy, but R-E highlight 1 left. Well, technically it's right. So now we've got that highlight on its own layer by itself. Now if we look at the iris without the highlight, you can kind of see there's kind of nothing there now. It's another, like, there's a hole in the iris. I don't think I actually have to draw behind it, but I'm not sure. I'll do it just to be safe. Let's go ahead and switch back to our pen. Oh, let's go too far up. This way. So yeah, it's just a matter of making sure that you also get the color gradients. If you're like drawing underneath the eye, that can be a little bit rough. As I mentioned, I'm not very good at this, so it's pretty hard for me to do redrawing at this level. I'm still trying my best though. So I'm just kind of doing color matching with like grab this color, fill in a little bit here. This color. I'm just trying to like recreate the original gradient, kind of using the sides as a reference. And then I can go to like a blend tool and like kind of blend it all together. Blend sideways a little bit to kind of lighten this tone up a bit. Let's zoom all the way out and see how I did. Okay, the edge over here needs to be a little bit better defined. Less defined. Okay, maybe. Actually, let me try blending again. Let's do this just more. I'm thinking this is starting to look better. And I probably want to draw like just a little bit back in the inner circle. Get kind of that half moon shape back. Okay, I think this looks good for a redraw from a total newbie. I don't think most people will notice the like minor imperfections at like 800% zoom. Okay, cool. Let's save that. So all of that was for one of the highlights in my eye, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I think if I zoom out, like you're not going to be able to tell where I did the work. If you can, let me know. Like I think I can see it because I know exactly where I did it, but I don't know if anyone else can. Yeah, actually try blending that a little bit better. Oh, that's huge. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. Okay. Let's save our hard-earned work. So, similarly, I'm going to have to do that entire process for all of the highlights in each eye. As you can tell, it's quite a bit of work, but I think it'll be really worth it. Put the rest of her face back. Yeah. So we can now put the highlight back in on its own. So from here, it's similarly. This one's probably going to be easier to cut. I'll probably do another couple highlights just to kind of like give the gist of that. So I'll go ahead and zoom it out. Oh, it's not making it right. Let's go ahead and zoom back in. Turn off the highlight I've already taken. Turn off the rest of the eye. Turn off the rest of the body. That's what I'm really working on right here. And then, like I said, I want each individual highlight to be able to move and kind of have a life of its own. So. Zoom in a little bit further. And I guess like what I was saying earlier is like even though I'm a total newbie at redrawing, like it's still okay. Like you won't be able to tell when you zoom out, and it's really worth going in and getting each of these components to have their own detail, just so that your model will truly have that amazing quality of. They really do look 3D even though they're only 2D because the light will reflect properly in their eyes. So just like this, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the rest of this highlight here. And exclude the areas that aren't necessarily part of the highlight. Okay. This is probably good enough. Though I don't think I want... actually, no, I do want that little bit inside the eye. That's cool. Let's add this one. Add that one. Okay. So similarly to before, now we're just going to go ahead and cut and paste. And this is now our A highlight to top. And again, making sure that you immediately label all of your layers and keep track of what you're working on at each point in time is super, super important. So, and then I'll go ahead and remove this. And now we've got more repainting to do. Make sure that I'm editing this layer. Let's add this. Grab this color. This was one major thing that I noticed when I was looking at all the different tutorials is that you really should spend all the time you can to really make sure each of your cuts is organic and makes your model looks like it. When you go to rig things, you will only be able to rig, all of the layers that you have will be able to be rigged individually. But if you don't have a layer for something, then you can't rig it. So be careful with that. Additionally, when you are in the rigging process, one of the things that you need to do is if you have any animations for that character, you're going to want to be able to have, for example, if you're going to be VV-tubing with them, you likely want their mouth to be able to move. Even if you have a static image like I do, where the character's mouth isn't open by default, you can actually still basically just draw in a very simple spherical mouth, and then actually put that character's, put a mouth there. And then you would want to draw the tongue a lot bigger too. And it'll look really silly, but you can actually do that and then not have to have two reference images, where one of them is your character in a normal pose and the other one is with their mouth open. Obviously, if you have one with their mouth open, that makes things a lot easier, but if you don't want to pay for that extra reference, or you're already moderately good at drawing, you might want to take that. In my case, it was more that the artist just didn't have time, so they're also going to be making my emotes, so I didn't want to... I wanted to see if they had enough for it, but we'll see. And then, now that this is done, I'm going to go ahead and blend around the edges here. Grab this. And now that we're mostly done... Oh, no, I'll do that last bit. Now that we're mostly done with the second highlight, same thing. Grab blend tool. And I like using fingertip blend just because, as a newbie, this feels like it looks better. And it's intuitive and kind of easy to use. It's like taking your finger and just smudging the ink. But it makes it naturally transition from one color to another, which is kind of nice. So you can see how like the inner part of the eye that I drew looks a little bit too light, but as I'm like blending into it, that kind of goes away and it starts looking more uniform. And then if we zoom all the way out, you can kind of see where like this isn't quite exactly right, so you'll want to go ahead and draw on a little bit here, and then get that part. And then if we go all the way back to like that, and then add the highlight back in, you can kind of see how like that back part will be hidden by the highlight for the most part. But the highlight kind of like adds this additive effect where like even though it's on top of the thing, you can kind of still see behind it a little bit. But now if we add the rest of her eye, it looks normal. For the most part. Like the overall curvature here is still maintained. You kind of still see like all the different pieces and how they like fit together. So, that's eyes done. Well, obviously I'm not done, but that is enough explaining and probably examples on doing the eyes so that you can kind of see what I meant. That I'm gonna go ahead and turn all my layers back on. And then zoom all the way back out. You can see even though I've been doing a lot of cutting, it looks like nothing has changed. But now, what we can do is, let me save this work. And then I'll export this for now as a Photoshop document, a PSD. That's done, I kind of want to show you like a little bit more about why this is important to do that sort of very detailed cutting. So let's go ahead and look over at Live2D Cubism. So this was when we imported Aki before, and we tried to do a couple of minor things and potentially, let's look at the tails for example. This is the tail mesh. We can just do like, pick this art mesh, do like a wrap deformer as tail. Is this the wrong one? So you can see how now, like, that I've attached that mod to her tails, you can see, like, I can wiggle her tails around a little bit. But they're all, like, the entire set of her tails is moving now. Even the ones on the far right that are kind of nowhere near where I'm deforming the mesh are getting pulled a little bit as I, like, yank this part of the mesh around. So this is why you want to make sure that you cut things into their individual layers, because otherwise you'll get this sort of weird behavior where, like I said, this deformation of the mesh is like, I can only basically do this. Like, I can't move individual parts for tails very easily. So let's go ahead and undo all of this again. And now, let's close this. 4th scale model just to make this easier. It imports a bit faster. You can see her tails are gone now because I had them invisible when I exported. They're still here though, so I can still turn them on. It's just that since I wasn't working them and I had them invisible by default, it remembers that choice. But now we can look at the main character and look at her eyes. Look at her right eye, and we can say like iris. And then I want to go ahead and this. So you can see she's got like a bunch of meshes in her eyeball now. And you can actually zoom in. Zoom a bit. Go back. Oh, that's fine. See, like I had the tails selected so I can actually move them around independently. But zoom in, you can see her eye now has a bunch of cool triangles. And each of these has a different vertex. And you can see now her individual eye components. Like, I can have her look around now. Since I cut her eye, that upper part of her eye, as part of the same layer, since I haven't separated it yet, you can see how, like, if I move out of that layer, like, you can see her eyes like going invisible, like it's rolling, like I can roll my eyes like downward. I can't do that upwards yet because again I cut that part of her eyes one layer, and this is why I did that, so that once I actually got to this point I could show you. So now I can move my eye left to right, but because that upper part of my eye is still part of the same layer, I can't customize that. But now I can also like perform my eyes as well. For each different component. And automatic meshing is pretty nice for this sort of thing as well. There's a bunch of things you can do. You can take, like, if you want really heavy deformation on an object, you can make each of these vertices much smaller so that your eye can do all, like your component can do all sorts of interesting movements. In this particular case, there isn't really a need for super heavy deformation on the eye shape itself. So I think standard would probably be fine. Accidentally closed my browser. I will fix that. I wanted to check something on stream, and I kind of broke it doing that. But yeah, this is part of why cutting the right layers is such a critically important thing. Because as you saw, the more layers you cut, the more capability that you have, and the more detail you'll be able to go into with a lot of the movements that you create. So just like that. And now since like the individual highlight is a different thing as well, that can also have its own mesh. See, now we can deform the highlight. We can move the highlight around individually, independent of the rest of the eye. We we can also deform the we can deform the highlight a little bit, make it stretch, make it move around. And that wouldn't be possible if it weren't fully independent. So like let's say we're deforming the eye so that like all the vertices are like, you can make your eye get really big by like spreading out the vertices on it, your iris. Obviously this looks really buggy because I'm like trying to do it ad hoc, but I think you can kind of get the idea of how interesting potential with having each individual thing be its own mesh, and then you want to relate those meshes together with their own particular capabilities. And you want the iris to be able to move, like you want your eye to be able to move around inside your iris pretty freely, things like that. So this also shows. Oh, thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you. I appreciate the subscription very, very much. Thank you so much. So, hey, send me my name. So, back to the actual art stream. You can kind of see that. I'm working on having the rest of my emotes colored and stuff. I'll show you them at the end of stream if you're interested. I don't have them quite ready yet, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And they're all of Aki. So if you like her design, then you'll be happy with the emotes once they're ready. Yabby is also doing the emotes and needed a little bit more time. So, as you've kind of seen, that's why I'm going through the trouble of doing things like separating each individual highlight and each individual strand of hair so that each of them can deform on their own and be able to move independently of each other. So far I've done the hair. I'll kind of recap in case people haven't been here for a while. For hair, some of the important things are that you want to make sure that you cut each individual strand that should be able to move on its own. The more pieces you divide your hair into, the more freedom of motion it'll have, the more dynamic it will look, and the more you'll be able to do with it in terms of deformations. For your eyes, you'll want to make sure that you cut the iris out of your eye, and then if you have a bunch of highlights like Aki does, each individual highlight should be its own layer too, so that when your eyes move, your highlights can be deformed in a way that matches the movement of your eye, instead of just kind of sliding with the eye. Because I feel like your eye is deformed so that it's being translated in space to the right, your highlight would just get translated directly with it unless it's on its own layer, and that way it can get kind of deformed inward so it looks like it's slanting with your eye and the light is reflecting differently. For blend layers, like for example in my Foxfire layers, there are blend layers that add glow dodges and act as overlays. When you import them into Live2D Cubism, they actually won't carry over properly, and any layers that you have will actually look really weird if you do that, so it's highly recommended that you get rid of them. For a concrete example of this, I can actually show you what it looks like if you don't do this, since we were talking about showing through example. Let's go back to Live2D. Zoom all the way out, now that I'm doing this part. So let's close this and open the base PSD that I used to have, which was, it has the rough like outline sketch and the underlying components of my model as well. Where originally there's a rough sketch and then that was drawn on top of to improve it to the final work that you see. So, and that had a bunch of the rough layers were kind of like smoothed over and kind of used as color references, and the layers were blended in such a way that you could then hide the rough and go with the final image. So when I imported it, the first time I was just curious as to what would happen if I imported it directly. It actually ended up looking really, really scary. And I was like, oh no, this is not what Aki should look like. So you're about to see what kind of scared me as well once this finishes creating the model data. Technically, there are 3 entire layers in this one. So like up close it may look that bad, but her face is scary. So as you can see, like there's a bunch of like all sorts of smudges and her color's all messed up. And it looks like there's a bunch of weird stuff going on. And that's because, and this is without the rough being visible. This is because a bunch of layers for all their coloring stuff were applied as different color layers, and they were smudged, and they were like layered in as like different smudge effects or blends or otherwise. Like, see, like the lines were different layers compared to the individual colors. There were highlights, touch-ups, and like shades that were used as blend layers, multiply layers, glow layers, things like that. So you do have to flatten those and make sure that you combine them with the actual texture of reference as like the actual base thing that they're modifying. Because if you don't, you get stuff that looks like this, where it's kind of scary and doesn't look anything like what you actually want it to look like. So that's why if you look at Aki, each of these layers in the main bottom right over here, like her main image is just, aside from her tails, is only one image now. I flattened basically everything. And then I'm gonna have to actually go through and cut everything myself, as I've been doing throughout the rest of the stream. So with that said, another thing is if you wanted to do the mouth, for example, Aki doesn't actually have an open mouth here. So what you will want to do is a bit complicated. You actually need to cut the upper and lower parts of your mouth, regardless of how it looks, into 2 individual components, and each of them will be their own layer. And that way you can have like the top of your mouth move up and the bottom of your mouth move down when you speak. And then as for how you're going to create a mouth from this, you can actually do it fairly straightforwardly. You just draw like a really big circle. It will look super, super weird. But like, for example, what I would want to do is, mouse over and get my tablet back. I'd want to do something like grabbing this skin color here and then going like a few shades darker. And you can actually just draw like a huge circle like that of whatever you want the inside of your mouth to look like. You want it to be bigger than this. Like, it's actually surprisingly okay, like how big you can draw the circle for your mouth. And then after that, you want to just like draw like a lighter structure, like potentially like a little bit of pink or something for like your tongue. And even though this looks really rudimentary, you have to think about like when you look at a lot of VTubers, if you look inside their mouths, they usually don't have, like, unless they're very, very high-end models, they usually don't have like a super well-defined tongue. Like, they basically just have like an open shade that has like a circle inside of it. And that's essentially what you're drawing here. So that's why I was saying earlier that you don't actually need a reference for your character to really have that sort of thing. A good example of that is someone who I've been learning from. Her name is Yabby. And her model, I will actually show you a little bit of an excerpt from one thing that she was drawing when she was drawing her character's mouth. She is an artist and she actually drew her own VTuber. Let me quickly arrange this. Specifically for showing. Okay.
It has more to work with.
A little bit more.
Better to be bigger.
Okay. So, like, I will show you what like her mouth actually looks like for her model. It's kind of hilarious, honestly. And it kind of goes to show like how well you can kind of optimize this sort of thing where you don't necessarily have to draw super well and have like a really nice mouth. So let's go ahead and make this visible. So as you can see here, like, I'm gonna move this over here. You can kind of see here where her mouth is really just like a big brown circle with like a bit of like a smaller red circle with some blending into the back so that it looks like it's two-dimensional. And then her teeth are basically just a flat line. Where with a little bit of cleanup, like it'll basically look the same, but like when she's talking, you can kind of see like how it looks like if you like look at her face. She has like the little, you can see the little red circle there, and then her teeth there, and she like blended the edges a little bit. You can kind of see like that shadowing on the edge of her teeth as well. So it's kind of neat to see like you can actually draw something relatively small like that, like relatively simple like that, and still have a very nice outcome when it's actually in motion and working properly. Okay, so now I'll just do this. And then, so going back to Aki, the next thing that I learned is that you also, like I haven't gotten to do the arms or anything like that yet. So I figure I will keep talking about that while I'm at it. Let's move it a little bit. So as you can see, Aki has these really large sleeves that kind of cover most of her arms. Where, interestingly, what you want to do when you're cutting like arms and legs, you don't want to cut them precisely at the, like for example, like her elbow is like right here. You actually don't want to cut super precisely on the elbow. You want to like cut here so that there's some kind of overlap, and then when you cut with the next part, you want there to continue to be that overlap. And this is because otherwise when your character moves, there will be this like empty space where they've moved away from the base image and there's nothing underneath that base image. So you want to make sure that you cut in such a way that, like, let's say, despite her like, arms being like this, like, let's say I wanted to like rotate her arm, like if I turn her arm like that and like move it down, you see how like obviously it looks disjointed because I like tuned it, I haven't like, trimmed the rest of her arm, but you see how like I need that overlap so that it doesn't look like her arm is just broken once I've moved it. So that sort of thing is why you want to make sure that you cut your arm positioning with some overlap. And same thing for your legs. Like you want to, when you're cutting your legs, you're gonna want to make sure that you, like instead of cutting like exactly at the knee, you wanna cut like a little bit beneath the knee for the upper part of your thighs. You want to make sure that you cut that, and then for the lower part, you want to make sure that you still overlap that knee and then come down. So that way, like as your leg is bending and things like that, you'll still have the upper part of your knee on the base mesh. And that way, like if I, for example, like rotate her leg to be pointing that way, you could see how like if I only cut the whole knee, that would look really weird, right? But if I like, let's go back. Let's say I I cut the upper part of her leg, and let's actually just do a deselect. I'm gonna do it kind of lazily just to demonstrate the point, and I do like a copy paste. And then I cut this bottom part of her leg. See, now there's a copy of her leg where, like, even if I turn off, like, most of her body, I still have, like, that part of her leg. If I then kind of, like, start moving just this part, I would need to bring this to the front, I think. Let's copy that. And now this is gonna be on top. So if I like rotate this leg now, and then hide the rest of her. Like, there's not this like empty space where oh, I know what I did wrong. I copied it specifically from that layer. So let's undo a bunch of this. Make this visible again. But yeah, I think you kind of get the idea. So it's really important to have that amount of wiggle room underneath for each of your joints. Additionally, if your character has default blush, like Aki does, then you need each part of that, you want that blush to be its own layer as well. And since I want her hair ornament to be able to move independently, I'm gonna work on cutting that next. So interestingly, like the base part with this blue part, this can all be one piece because that pretty much is gonna move together. But this like strand part where it's hanging down, this needs to move independently of the base. So because of that, I'm gonna have to do this in a couple of different layers. Where first off, I'm gonna cut the flower and the base of the flower off. Because I do want those to move together as one. But after I cut those, I'm gonna have to then cut this as its own layer. So, in my opinion, I think the best way to do that is to just go around, grab this entire thing. Well, actually, I'll do this base first, and I can just add this to the selection afterward. As you can tell, like it's kind of complicated to get because it's such a long ornament with like a lot of nice little pieces in it, where it looks like vines and flowing. There. And similarly to before, there are pieces that we want to exclude. Like I don't really want to capture in this. So I'm gonna have to like move around it. And then I'm gonna actually have to redraw like the inner part of this because her eyelashes are top. But that's fine. Like, again, I said you'll have to be doing a lot of redrawing. Zooming in. Grabbing this part. Back to our lasso tool. Exclusion mode. I do actually want the outer. Yeah, I like. It took me a while to get used to like how each selection mode worked. It's why I said I like drawing a bit more than I need to and then deselecting, because it's easier to like trace the outside and then like be really careful with your outer line tracing and then just draw like a super big circle on the outside. To just cut away all the stuff you don't want. And similar, you have to if you're adding the edge, you want to like add and then cut inward so that you're drawing in areas that are already part of your selection. Like this. You just draw outward a little bit and keep looping back in. The looping in bit is important because if you don't do that, you'll get these areas where you've kind of got two selections kind of side by side, or a selection within a selection that isn't exactly what you need. And then you have to just draw the same circle all over it again just to go ahead and get that. I'm gonna snooze. Ads were about to start. I'm gonna go ahead and snooze them for another 5 minutes or so because we're getting near the end. So I want to make sure that we get to maximize our time together rather than me streaming ads for 5 minutes of our remaining 20. It may do that without my permission anyway, just because that's how ads work sometimes. Yeah, see how like it's acting like the middle part of this is actually a bunch of independent selections and they're not just one uniform whole? That's the kind of stuff I was talking about where it's like very important to make your selections in a way that that doesn't happen, because then it's a pain to clean it up. That's why it's easier for me to just do a really big circle, including things I don't want, and then just fix it like that. Okay, so we're almost done grabbing the ornament. I just need to grab the like outer edges of its construction. There are a couple places where I didn't highlight enough. Okay, that should be good enough. So again, here we're gonna do cut and paste. Immediately make sure to rename your layer. And this is ornament. And I'm gonna move that down. Close this. Here I had an ornament folder. Okay, so now this is the entire ornament. Similar to before, taking everything else away so we can really just work on this specific piece. You can see what I meant earlier where I said, like, because I'm missing parts of, like I had to cut out the middle because her eyelash was on top of it. Now I have to redraw this component. So, let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. And grab this color. to, in the deselections, it'll let me actually draw. And then we just have to be very careful. Just drawing the edge of it here. Similarly, like I kind of cut a bit too close here, and I wasn't careful earlier. Now I gotta redo that part. But I'm just gonna quickly do the outer limit of it. And then I'll paint over the inside after. Actually, the white here. Just trace this up. Fix it down. And then we can just add the outline that we needed. And then erase the outer parts that we don't need. Oh no, I missed the snooze button. There'll be a little bit of, there might be a little bit of an ad. Let's switch pen types because this one kind of needs to be precise. It's a very thin line here. There. And then it slants a little bit here. Okay. And you can kind of see like these brown parts where I cut that part out of her hair. Same thing, we need to erase those. And then I'm gonna turn her back on so you can actually see like what this looks like at scale. It's like even though it looks kind of like bent there, you can see like where the edit started. So let's turn her back on. You can kind of see like where I cut out. I'm gonna have to fix that part of her hair. And I can turn the, but now that the ornament is in its own layer, I can actually turn it off so you can see like where I would need to paint underneath. So you make it look like her hair is still there, even if the ornament flexes a little bit and shows pieces that weren't originally there. But since I kind of don't like the way that this kind of bends now, I'm gonna make sure that I fix that. I'll do this far. Let's tap here. And I'm gonna just do straight up. Oh, whoops. I had the, must have had my eraser set. Delete it. And this is my origin point. Go ahead and draw up and down. And then this gives me like a better point that I can then use to fix this. And then I can just kind of go a little bit further out to see like, does it line up? Oops. So you can see I'm kind of like working on just like streamlining what part. Because I didn't like do a super good job cutting it, this is actually a little bit more complicated. Still doable, it just takes time. And once I get this like actually lined up, then okay, this has the outsides lined up. Now I can just put a little bit more black down here to connect it to everything else. And then I just need to fix the light in the middle. Now I just need the gold pen. let's turn the rest of it back on. Let's see if I manage to like do it decent enough. This edge needs to be repainted. Okay. And then similarly here, a lot of this needs repaint. So if we zoom out a bit more. And turn everything back on, you can see like obviously you can see right here where like I haven't repainted that yet because I just did the cut. But if I go back out to this layer, actually zoom back in, I can just grab right here and just pull this back in. Similarly over here, this needs a little bit more filling as well. It's a little tricky, but and then technically this only looks weird because the ornament layer is beneath, but I actually do have to like paint in all the way underneath this as well. And then when I move the ornament layer up, it'll look better. So like even if I move now, like if I move her hair underneath the ornament, you'll still like see hair. It won't just be like empty space. You can kind of see there's like a little bit of a curve like that, where basically above this it's mostly one shade, and then like right here it changes shades, and then it's like a lighter brown shade. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably just fill. Oh, no. And then I can go ahead and blend. We can just draw. And this is why I was doing everything manually earlier. It's because I don't really like how fill ends up working half the time. You can see how like there's different like layers of the shade to like how her hair looks underneath this that kind of have to be unified in a way. A little bit of blending. And like you're barely ever gonna see this again because it's underneath her ornament and it'll only show like when I move her hair in a specific way. But still, I feel like attention to detail is important in this sort of thing. So if we zoom out a little bit, yeah, that looks mostly reasonable. Like where I fold it up here, you can kind of see like where this like hair link limit is, or like right about here. Yeah, I'm doing it now. I just needed to zoom out a little bit further so I could actually see like what I was doing. Also, hi Dia, good to see you. And kind of right here is where that color shifts a bit. Still feels off to me. Let me zoom in. I feel like I'm grabbing the wrong color. Yeah, it is the wrong color. It's really like a couple of different stridents of color through here. And then down here, you can see it kind of gets dark again. But then it immediately gets light again. So, it's a little bit of a complicated spot. And then to ease this with the transition here a little bit, I'll go ahead and just like blend these two together. There we go. That looks good. And then here I need to blend this, like, these strokes together as well. It's so satisfying to me to see, like, it gets smoothed out at the very end. Where, like, it looks good. And then, like, if you zoom out, it looks perfectly fine. It's very satisfying. Not quite done with this yet. As you can see, I've got a lot of her hair to color in this kind of weird pattern. This is actually pretty cathartic. So I showed like a little bit of like how rigging works, but I'm also gonna have to like learn that as well. But intro to like doing your own VTubing stuff is pretty long. But I think it'll be worth it to see Aki moving around. It's like a passion project I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. I'm just really happy Yabby agreed to actually do the art. There's a moment there where it might not have gotten done, but it worked out in the end. And then I want this to look a little bit better, so I'm going to blend these lines here as well. Cool. So that should have repaired Aki's like frontal hair piece there. Yeah, this looks good. It looks like it was there to begin with. Hey, I'm getting better at this. I'm like actually not a very good artist, so I'm glad that the tools are compensating for me. Oh, wait, not blend. I need to cover this spot in the middle here. Otachi, we were supposed to play Trine. Do you still feel like playing Trine? Do you want to keep watching?
I don't mind. This is interesting as well. We're relaxing. We can play it then.
Up to you.
I'm fine with this. So we can have this one stream dedicated to this.
The hardest part for me is like connecting the lines. Like, yeah, I could do it like this, but I feel like I want to get better at like actually connecting them myself. But I think this is okay too. It looks fine. This is like a slightly lighter color.
Add a little bit of a curve on the bottom side.
Uh-huh. In. And now blending. Not quite there. Does that look okay? I feel like that's a bit too much of a dark blend. Blend a little bit more light into it. Kind of like a streak through the middle. And I can do this kind of like simple blend to kind of streak it through the middle. See the streak starting to like take shape right through the middle there. Kind of gives a bit of a more curvy look to it, I guess. Okay, let's zoom out and check that. Yeah, that looks fine. Cool. All right. So just like before, Oh, this part's gonna be hard because it's like right underneath a bunch of like her. Okay. Next up, let's recenter this. My zoom. Let that close. Okay. Back to pen. Grab right here. Let's create like a little baseline kind of like down here. And the hard part is like, actually, this black line looks like it's supposed to go like this. And that like curves right here. And then this part. That right here. That feels like it's a bit too abrupt. Maybe I should widen it like that. From here, like here. Let's zoom out a little bit. I think the most recent like adjusted curve looks better. And then we can draw a little bit on top of this part. Definitely still. Oh wait, undo that like that. And then this part comes down. Yeah, I hadn't expected there to be so much redrawing when I was doing when I originally planned for having this drawn. So I like did a few like practices just to make sure I'd be able to do some of it, but I'm glad I did. Close enough, and we need this like slightly lighter tone here at the base, like as it's getting closer to the edge. And then now that we're basically done with this part, I can blend it. Let's do a standard blend first. Not quite that much blending. There we go. And then I want to blend some more of this pink downwards. That's the saving. It like auto saves for me in regular intervals. I had a really bad point at one point where I lost a lot of work because an autosave wasn't working properly. So yeah, since then I was like, I always want something auto-saving. And this a little bit better. Okay. Let's zoom this out a little bit. That tip needs a little bit more definition. Still needs more definition. Give a little bit more on the base here. That under part will get blended out. Yeah, that top part needs a bit more definition as well. It'll get blended soon enough though. Still. And then close it up. Yeah, I kind of need to fix the rest of it first. And then I can color the inside. That's actually like part of the background of her hair. This part I actually should probably zoom in really far on. But yeah, so be careful if you have a lot of ornaments like this, because if you really want the ornaments to be like very free flowing and move around a lot as you're rigging your character, or if you're hiring a rigger, you're gonna have to do a lot of inpainting with this to fix the issues. Fix potential issues rather. Okay, let's zoom out and check what this looks like. I think that's fine. I'll come back and like straighten up the edges a little bit later. Oh, actually I should probably just do it now when I'm thinking about it. But now you can see what I was like. That's too big. Let's do it like that. And then blend into here. Just a little bit more. Just right. Zoom out. This like needs just a little bit more backing. No, it's just the underside. I think the top is actually fine now. Right here. This basically just needs to be thickened up. Oh, that's not actually black, is it? Nope. Is it immensely satisfying to anyone else to see this kind of thing like come together?
Mm-hmm.
I think that looks better.
It's how I feel sometimes when I'm doing edits on random things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember the
With the overlay?
yeah. So it's like, oh, you know, once I actually got it working, I was like, oh, I gotta show.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like the interesting thing is that like this is like this part is, I would say, not necessarily super difficult, but it's very time consuming. I'm not sure how rigging is gonna be. I'm kind of scared about rigging. I don't want to blend these two together. These don't really. Oh no, don't do that. I hit the transparency zone and it started meshing in transparency. There we go. Okay, this is like starting to get towards the easier part because our hair has less gradations through here. Of course, I'm gonna blend this all after I'm done to make it look nicer, but you can kind of see like right here, this is a little bit lighter. I don't know if those level of like details are visible on stream or not. This part and this part are two different colors. Can you tell? Like here's the dividing line, like right here.
Not so much.
Okay, good. It means that the vast majority of people won't necessarily see the level of detail that I'm making sure that I adhere to with my repaint. Wait, is my knob almost gone? Oh wow. I've like ground out like half of the tip I started with today. Wow, amazing.
Are you pressing that hard?
No, just enough. Because it's actually pressure sensitive. Well, in certain places I am, because this is pressure sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So like to get the really strong lines, I'm pressing hard. But like, so like right here, I'm not pressing hard at all. But like now I'm pressing hard. See how like it makes a notable difference in the line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so kind of have to.
Well, just remember, each tip is about $1.
Yeah. And this needs to be darker. Okay. I would say after this bit, this next bit, we can probably go ahead and play Charm. But I do want to at least get like the hairspace underneath her ornament done today. I'm thinking I'll put more streams of this kind on, or I can just continue working on Aki. I just need to figure out like what days to do it on. I wonder if Yabby will see this. If not, I'll let Yabby know and be like, look, this is a cool thing. But like, since I'm like getting down into the part where like a lot of her hair gradient is mostly the same, I can go ahead and increase my brush size. This is a different shade now. Well, before we move on, let's make sure that we touch up this area first. And then, as usual, we need to blend everything together once we're done. This has been very, very satisfying. And I look forward to the day. Whoop, let's not do that. I wanted this. the brighter shade. There's so many different like shades through here that I didn't realize there were until like looking this close at it. I think my problem is that a lot of the existing strokes are vertical, whereas a lot of what I did is horizontal. I'm gonna have to like clean that up later. And this also tells me like what the actual gradation was. It was actually vertical. Straighten the left side up a bit. Zoom out a bit. This looks better now. The strokes are going in the right direction. That's why I couldn't figure out like why the gradation was looking weird. It's because I started going horizontal when the actual gradient was vertical. You can see I messed it up like all the way up there even. And like this part. Then mapping. Grab this, straighten this out a little bit. And then I'll blend it. Okay. Zoom out some more. Let's compare to the other side. This goes bright a little bit too soon. So let's do fingertip blending. Make it a little bit bigger. Blend this downwards some more. Be a little bit darker through here. Let me go grab this from the other side. And then blend this together again. almost there. Just be a little more prominent on this side, and then finally just blending it. Lost a little bit of the straight line doing that though. Okay, I'll fix that and then we'll be done. Let's see. Do this and then zoom in. Okay. It's much smaller again. That. Sides, we can clean it up like that. Cool. And I just need to go over here, fix this one line. Okay. So that that line's still messed up at the bottom there. We're almost there. Okay, this looks like it should be good. We did it! Except for the gigantic hair splash of like where the flower was. hopefully this part's easier so I can just do this part inside and this part underneath, and then like the outer edges. And then I can just fill this hole here like that. I'll be careful not to draw on top of the eyelashes. Okay. So now all we need to do is finish filling this in. Go ahead and actually do it for fill. That's the thing I don't like about fill. See how it like leaves this weird like white outline around like where a cut occurred? Yeah, that's part of what I don't like using fill for, because then I have to go around and trace that line. And I intentionally like did the dark color underneath so that like certain pieces that you might be able to see like around the edges will look like they're still dark. But like all of the actual middle part will still be like the same color as her underlying hair. Because this part you should theoretically never see. Because like her hair ornament won't deform that far. So I'm hoping you never see this part. And now, the finishing touch on actually blending all of this so that it doesn't look like I just in-painted casually. Because I do want it to like look a little bit darker underneath. Like around the edges. But I also want it to be like only like a little bit. It's a little work, but it looks nice once you're finally done with it. And then the hard part is I just have to like, I'm trying to give like just this hair piece like it's a very, very faint outline like it used to have. It's like I overblended to the point of like ruining some of the definition a little bit. I'm just trying to add that back in. You can kind of see how I'm like just barely sketching out like where the outlines are. So I'm hoping that like just doing a standard like little bit of a blend will help them keep that like really that more defined color gradient edge without like making it look so scribbly. But draw instead. Oh, I mean, I see. I feel like I added another section where there didn't really need to be one, and that's what's making it feel weird. This can all technically just be one color, like one or two colors. Where's the ornament? Is the ornament like right on top of that scene? Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. I think that's okay for now. In case I want to go do that later, I'll save this as another thing. Tatsu, do you have Shrine up and ready?
Nope, but I can have it up in a second.
Alright. Well, as I'm closing out, I'd like to see if there's any questions from people who are still here, or any interest in this sort of, in future streams like this, where I continue working on Aki's cutting and things like that. And if you have any questions, just ask them now before we close out. Chat, over to you. Any questions about like cutting and kind of like Live2D rigging and things like that? Maybe now's a good time to ask. She's the fluffiest. So, anything? Any questions at all? Seems like there's no particular questions at this time. Alright, in that case, I'm really glad that you came by and watched. I'm gonna switch over to a different, like a puzzle platforming game now. If you're interested, please stick around. It's pretty fun to play. Not, then I will see you in the next stream. I didn't think this would be as intense, but also as relaxing as it is. So I'll definitely be doing some more of these. And if people have questions, you can let me know on any other stream, and I'll like answer them during the next art stream. This is also my first stream since actually passing 100 followers. So I'm kind of glad that this was the stream that I got to do that with. That said, I'm thinking I'll make a Discord to make communication and things like this easier in the future. So I'm hoping that people will join the Discord and potentially hang out with me when we're playing games as well. On stream at some other time. So I'll get the Discord set up sometime this week. I will update the bot so that it actually has the information for that server. And I hope to see you there. I thought you'd have it, right?
Yep.
Alright, so that said, alright, I'm gonna briefly turn off stream. If you're interested in the puzzle platforming game, don't go anywhere. I'll turn it back on. I just like to keep my stream separate so that, especially when I upload this to YouTube, this archive will be separate from the puzzle platform game. And it'll be easier to find in the future as well if you're interested in looking at this. Alright, that said, please stick around if you're interested. If not, I shall see you in the next art stream or other game stream that you're interested in. Be right back.